There's also more of a vulnerable narcissism. We can be prone to feeling ourselves as the most special in a negative way. We're like the worst ones. We're like
which still is pretty special.
Yes. I mean, it's hard to think of that, isn't it? It's hard to think of that when you're feeling really like especially bad, or especially, that actually is a form of narcissism, because you see yourself as sort of the worst instead of the best, like you kind of really suck. And that is a special form of vulnerable narcissism.
Interesting.
And yeah,
I've never really thought of it. Like that, but right. Like the effect is still the same, because we're just focused on, right, something's wrong with us, or like in that sense, right? I guess it's like, oh, I'm the worst, or or like we're the center of our own attention. Like,
that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. It's the center of attention is what we need to draw attention. And when we're there, we often turn to others. You're preoccupied with others filling that up. Am I okay? Are you okay? And when we fall more on that spectrum, we're really looking for other people to sort of tell us that we're okay, rather than affirming. Is like we need that to fill up us because we don't feel okay.
Right. And one of the ways that those are connected, it's actually really important. So there's the grandiose narcissism, and then there's, people call it different things, depressive narcissism or negative narcissism.
Vulnerable narcissism.
Right.
Yeah.
But the injury is very similar. And again, these often go together. And within each of these kinds of narcissism is think of it like there's, like with the grandiose, there's a really scared, shame-filled child. Mm-hmm. And then with the negative narcissism, there is somebody who wants to be seen and you know what I mean, that doesn't feel bad, actually, that wants to be like, see me, see me, see me, see me, but has a lot of shame about that. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, it's nice to just kind of put it on the continuum. And, and there's such a thing as not enough narcissism, right? Healthy narcissism. Right. Like us to even do this, we have to have a little bit of healthy narcissism. We have to kind of believe in ourselves and think that we have something to say. And some people don't have enough. And so there's this selflessness that happens. They're also going to be really vulnerable to connect with somebody who has it all together, apparently.
Actually, they're particularly vulnerable when you don't have the sense of self, because as we talked about, what makes it so appealing? One of the things that makes it appealing is that when somebody mentioned it earlier, have such a big sense of self, and you've been struggling with it, you can't find a sense of self, and your identity is what other people feed you. Those fit really well to begin with. Mm-hmm. And as long as it stays in that dynamic, but as the individual becomes more healthy and says, hey, what about me? That can create a lot of conflict in the relationship. But that's particularly difficult about that is if somebody grows and kind of feels more a sense of wanting more room in a relationship with a narcissist and starts to act for that, it can create a lot of conflict. And unfortunately, a narcissist often struggles with that and can threaten to pull away. It's what makes a relationship so hard to leave, because that threat of withdrawal.
Right. If I have myself, I'm going to lose this other person.
Right.
I really think, and I, can mistake love. Sometimes it feels like love, but sometimes it isn't, as far as, or like we project love into them because we're feeling loving and we're more relational. But really, and again, so degrees, there's not enough narcissism. There's kind of this healthy amount. There's being a little self-centered and a little, whatever, easy to injure or grandiose. And then separately, kind of further down, is the malignant narcissist. And I'm sure you all have talked about that on the show. Alice Miller is my go-to. I just think that she nailed that.
A malignant narcissist, just for those that might be tuning into this one first, has a lot to do with individuals that will do some gaslighting or very abusive kind of criticism. What else would you describe? Like in the malignant, and that it's very toxic for individuals.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It can be very crazy making, because if in a gaslighting situation you have a struggle with your identity, you're more likely to give it up and go, oh my gosh, that was me, you're right. That was me, that you're right. So there can be a really powerful dynamic and very difficult to get out of that situation.